The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. Bringing you the real story. Why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports.
Arizona went into Storrs, Connecticut and claimed the best win of the college basketball season and the number one ranking along with it.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Arizona 71, UConn 67 from Gamble Pavilion in Storrs, Connecticut. Arizona won with physically overwhelming UConn and a defense that is suffocating. And that bodes even better than any other way that could have happened for Arizona to win, because we all know how good Arizona is on offense and how good they can be on offense, because I don't think they're close to their ceiling there. I'm going to start this off with a quote from the opposing coach, a notoriously temperamental, but in this case, a good-spirited after a loss, Danny Hurley. He said, plain and simply, we got punked. It's going to be a bad film session coming out of here. There was a street fight going on in the paint. You can't stand on the outside when your buddies are in the fight. And that is the other side of the coin. Arizona dominated on the paint. And they had the bigger bodies. They had a concerted effort of dominating the paint because Terrace Reed, in my opinion, UConn's best player. In my opinion, their most important player, because he allows them to have a kind of balanced attack, not in terms of scoring, but in terms of they can play inside-outside ball through Terrace Reed. He was out, and as soon as that happened, I thought Arizona should dominate the glass and just needs to run solo ball off the line. I've tweeted that out. Arizona was plus 20 on the glass. They had 42 points in the paint, were able to get 13 offensive rebounds and 16 second chance points. That is a level of dominance on the interior that will win you ball games. And it is particularly impactful that they were able to do so against a team lacking their starting center. That said, Eric Riba is really good as their backup center. They have a two-headed monster up front like they have had the last couple of years. Additionally, Arizona was able to win this game without what I'd call a very good offensive performance altogether. Arizona was the better team and generated better shots all night, but left a lot hanging. I think I'm going to start with the negative here before working to the positive, because they work hand in hand. Arizona was up 35-33 at half and was the better team by far. To only be up by 2 was a travesty, because they got solo ball, Alex Karaman, Eric Riba, and Silas Demery, the 4 best players for the Huskies tonight, with 2 fouls, with 4 minutes to go in the first half. And they did not make any headway to make this game more in favor of Arizona. Instead, Arizona kind of played it to a stalemate, played complacently, in my opinion. Did not push that lead. I thought, oh man, they might regret that. And then they came out in the second half and played super aggressively and got to the rim and scored 14 of the first 18 points of the second half from inside the paint. And that is where their bread is buttered. I've said this 1,000 times. Arizona's going to have a repeatable and excellent offense, because where they score is easy shots. Even if they have a bad day shooting, which in my opinion they did today, both from 3 and from 2, they were still able to generate great looks because their offense is sustainable. Now, the other thing without burying the lead is Arizona's best 2 players, Koa Pete and Jaden Bradley, played like All-Americans. And when you go on the road and you play a team as well coached and as talented as UConn, you need to have your dudes play like dudes, and you ideally hope for the supporting cast to play well. But you need the dudes to play like dudes. And they did. They combined for 37 points. Koa Pete had 16 points, 12 rebounds, and I think he could have done even more. I think he was at times timid. He should have been more aggressive because he was great in this game. And Jaden Bradley at the end of the game hit a big jump shot when the momentum was on the side of the Huskies. And at the very end, that up fake, up and under pirouette was beautiful to score and beat the buzzer and put Arizona up by 3. And shout out Tobe Awaka for finishing the game with free throws. But let's go back to the defense. And now this is the best, the positive. I said the negative was Arizona was leading by 2 at half. Well, that's a great thing, because I talked about how UConn's a really good front-running team. And on a true road game, you do not want to fall behind. That was one of the keys I gave. We'll discuss all the keys and how they went coming up next. But let's talk about the identity for Arizona. Arizona under Tommy Lloyd has been top 10, or I guess top 11, 3 of the 4 years offensively. Sorry, all 4 years they've been top 11. 3 of the 4 years they've been top 10 offensively under Tommy Lloyd. They've played quickly many of the years. This year haven't had to, and they've still been productive offensively. But what won them this game, what won the game against UCLA, is fantastic interior defense and a true emerging star on one side of the ball that is getting better on the other. Mo Krivas, you can make the argument that even with Jaden Bradley and Koa Pete playing like All-Americans, you can make the argument the best player on the court today was Mo Krivas. Mo Krivas changed everything for UConn. UConn was shooting mid-range jump shots, which they very rarely do. They're a very analytically oriented team that shoots threes or layups. Well, Terrace Reed was out. They wouldn't get as many layups anyway because Arizona didn't need to double. But Arizona won a game against UCLA by playing switching defense at the end of the game and disrupting their offense by making them stagnant by switching. Against UConn, it's the exact opposite. They played a deep drop coverage, dared Eric Ryba to shoot. He actually hit a couple of them and played very well. But Mo Krivas controlled the paint, loomed large defensively, altered the shots and shot chart. And I've said that numerous times. But Arizona's a top 10 defense in this sport, and they will be a top 10 offense. And that makes them a true national championship contender. Like, that's the plain and simple point to make. If Arizona's winning games with their defense and their offense is only going to get better, watch out, world. And they punked UConn on the glass. Krivas had 14 boards. 14 boards. Between he, Koa Pete, and Tobe Awaka, they had 33 rebounds, which is 10 greater than UConn had as a whole. This is a dominant front court. They out-rebounded Florida, who was plus 40 against North Florida on the glass. This is a team that's really, really good and understands what they do well and are only going to get better. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, too, and how much growth there is, because I think for the team that should be the number one team in the country, after beating UConn at UConn, after beating UCLA in Inglewood, and after beating the defending champions on opening night, all three of which Arizona was favored to lose prior to the season. They were expected to lose by 5 against Florida. They were expected to lose by 4.5 against UCLA. By the time the game happened, Arizona was favored by 1. And then they were expected to lose by 6.5 in this one. And then Terrace Reed news was out and then dropped to 4.5. But anyway, all three of these teams were ahead. Number 3, Florida. Number 4, UConn. Number 12, UCLA, ranked all ahead in the first AP poll above Arizona. That was 13. Arizona's by far got the best resume in college basketball. They already did before this win, and now have the best individual win of the entire season, having beaten UConn at UConn. Arizona's number one team in the country, have tons of room to continue to grow because a lot of their pieces that we thought would be vital have not performed well yet. And I don't think UConn played well offensively in 2 of their big 3 wins.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for this weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
SMU looks to keep hopes alive to qualify for the ACC championship game.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I led off my show on Monday talking about how with Louisville's rushing attack and SMU's run defense, this is going to be a matchup of strength on strength. And do you think that's where Louisville's foundation is? Their offense is predicated on this running attack, which I got to say, man, I've been pretty impressed with the two-headed backfield that y'all have.
Yeah, I would caution those SMU fans listening to not really put too much stock into the numbers at the moment. I think heading into this week, the Cardinals are 70th in the country in rushing. And a lot of that was because early on in the season, offensive line was struggling to create any holes. Isaac Brown and Duke Watson were both hurt. Kejuan Brown was banged up. So they had to throw the ball a ton. And the rushing attack has revitalized itself over the past couple of weeks. Isaac Brown, of course, is hurt. I would be very, very shocked if he's playing in this game. I don't know if the news has come out yet, but I don't think Isaac Brown is going to be available at all. So yeah, I mean, that if Louisville's going to have success against this SMU defense, it has to come with running the football, because the passing attack has been a big issue for the Cardinals this season.
Yeah, man, what happened with Miller Moss? It kind of looked like it was a dude coming over from USC. He looked like he had some good football to play, and then he just hasn't been that dude this year.
Yeah, I mean, it just hasn't worked out. I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to. And you can point the finger at a bunch of different things. I mean, the offensive line hasn't been great. It's improved over the past couple of weeks. I think coaching has been an issue here and there. I mean, you look at Louisville's losses, they've got 3 losses, and they're by like a combined less than 10 points. So it shows you that they are in these games and just struggling to do the little things well. But I think with Miller Moss, I don't really know, man. You thought that him being in this Braum offense with a consistent rushing attack in the ACC, that he was going to be able to improve based upon his time at USC. But maybe he just sort of is who he is. You know, Lincoln Riley wasn't able to get the best out of him. Obviously, it seems like Jeff Braum hasn't either. I think the main problem, Grayson, is that he doesn't do a great job of going through his reads. He kind of locks on to his guy pre-snap, and he knows who he's going to throw the football to. And when it's not there, he panics. When the pocket breaks down, he panics. And when he panics, he either takes unnecessary sacks, he's not as accurate as he should be, or he just puts the ball in harm's way. So it's not all on him, let's be clear, but a good amount of blame is on the quarterback play. And I think that, you know, Grayson, with this SMU team, I've been a huge believer of Rhett Lashley's system. I was a huge fan of him before he even came to SMU. All last year, I was hyping SMU up as that dark horse in the ACC. They ended up going to the conference championship game. And even though the playoffs didn't turn out the way that they had hoped, I still had some high hopes coming into this season. But man, it feels like every time I start to believe in the Pony Bros, it's like they show me why I shouldn't, but kind of I haven't really paid it too much attention this year as much as you have. Yeah. What's the season looked like for Kevin Jennings thus far?
Okay. So that question took a turn in a way that I did not expect.
Yeah, my fault.
Yeah, so I thought you were. No, you're good. And I thought you were going to take it through the season as a whole, which
you could probably do both in time, both together if you'd like.
Yes, no, you could. And the season as a whole has been interesting because you lost both of your non-con Power 4 games to Baylor and TCU, and then you have seen to rectify the situation, and then you go lay a dud against Wake Forest and lose that game. Oh, but you beat Miami. So I think it's one of those situations where you kind of look at it from a team perspective, and you're like, well, is this Louisville team kind of maybe not a trap game, but is this a game where we could lose? And my answer to that whole entire situation would be possibly. I mean, SMU, I think, should be favored to win the game, but would I be shocked if Louisville came in and won the game? Absolutely not. Now, as it pertains to Kevin Jennings, he's been banged up. I mean, his ankle has been just not well ever since the Baylor game, which was the second game of the season. He's gutted it out. He's been a warrior the entire time, hasn't missed a game, has rarely missed snaps. And even through all of that, statistically, he's been the best quarterback in the ACC. The problem is there's been a lot of injuries around him. The offensive line has been banged up. Even with guys playing, they've been banged up. And then even this week with the defensive line, you're in kind of a game time decision situation with arguably your best pass rusher in Cam Robertson, who also is very good against the run, which kind of ties into that whole thing with Louisville being a really good run team. So I do think even though the records and the overall feel of the different fan bases are a little bit off, these two teams are pretty similarly matched in ways that I do think this is going to end up being a one-possession game, maybe a three-point game. And to your point about Miller Moss and being dumped by Lincoln Riley, I do think that's going to start a trend of if you're a quarterback and you get dumped by Lincoln Riley, that'll raise a lot of red flags because this is a dude who makes it work with everybody. And Jaden Maeva, I'm telling you, like he moved right off from Miller Moss, found another guy, and that dude is balling.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that the Miller Moss experience for USC, I thought he sort of took the fall for some of the issues of the USC team, but I guess I had discounted how much of a factor he played in why things were offensively the way they were. And it just is what it is. And that's why we had an episode on Tuesday talking about why, even though they might not, the Louisville Cardinals should be going to their redshirt freshman backup quarterback in this game. Don't think they will, at least not to start, but it seems like you have to do whatever you can to get a spark, man. And it's kind of, just a free fall at the moment for this team that had such high expectations heading into November. Now it's like, guys, we just got to end the season on a good note. It's a complete fall from grace.
Do you really think that the team is kind of in a free fall, in that mode of where some people have maybe packed it up a little bit and there's just so much disappointment that they couldn't, muster a win or two in their last couple of games? Do you really think that's where the team is at now?
I don't know about the team. I know that the fan base is right there. And the Louisville fan base, we've been through pain. You've seen those memes like, can you stop giving me your greatest battles? And then God's like, why are you still alive? And it feels like that's the Louisville fan base experience. Yeah. But overall, it's just sometimes it's not the fact that Louisville's losing, it's how they're losing. And you outgained Virginia by 160 yards. You outgained Clemson by 80 yards. You had the opportunities to win that game against California. It's the fact that, the Brom experience is going well, but look how much better it could be going if you just handle business in these 50-50 games more so than not. So, I think that you have to prevent the free fall. The SMU game is sort of just the appetizer. You want to win this game, but everyone's looking ahead to next week as well when Louisville plays Kentucky. If the Cardinals lose that game, Card Nation is going to be very toxic. Let's put it that way.
Well, it may be very toxic, but you're stuck with the coach that you extended.
He's not extended yet.
Oh, that's true.
They're working on it.
They're working on it.
Yeah. So, and it's one of those things you can't see the forest for the trees type moment. He's doing a great job. He's won 9+ games the past 2 seasons. He has a chance to do it this year. I think that has afforded him a season to where it's like, okay, things didn't go maybe the way you planned it, but now you've got an opportunity in the offseason, NIL, transfer portal era. There's never been an easier time to turn things around. So we'll see how that goes. But I kind of want to flip the questions over to you and or give you the opportunity to tell Louisville fans a little bit about the SMU Mustangs.
Yeah, and we're running out of time in this segment, so I'll be quick with this, and then we'll continue it in our next segment about where SMU stands. But running game is pretty good. Here's where I'm very interested with this matchup. I do think SMU's system that Rhett Lashley likes to run with his quick game, with his RPO, get it out of the quarterback's hands, that SMU has ran very, very well over the course of the entirety of the season. They've ran it very well, and Kevin Jennings has been the best quarterback in the ACC because of it. It's interesting how it matches up against Louisville's defense, because when I rewatch that Clemson game, I see a lot of off coverage, I see a lot of soft zone, and if you get the ball to these playmakers real quick, maybe get a blocker or two out in front, I think this is a game where schematically SMU can look at this and say, oh, we might have something here, because Louisville lets a lot of guys run untouched over the middle. They don't jam at the line of scrimmage. So if you give this team that is rife with playmakers like SMU is, free releases off the line of scrimmage, easy touches, I think it's a game where SMU could be in rhythm early offensively.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for this weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Mississippi State's fighting for a bowl eligibility. Ole Miss is fighting for a playoff berth. What more could you want in a game like that?
Yeah, you probably want your coaching search rectified. Whatever you might want that to happen. But yeah, there's a lot for both teams to play for. And listen, Jeff Lebby famously was at Ole Miss for a couple of years. He was there with Matt Corral, and Mississippi State has been right on the cusp of winning some pretty big games over the course of the season. I see a world where they could be 8-3 right now or something like that. And that's interesting to me because this game, I do think that Ole Miss and Mississippi State is a bad matchup for Mississippi State. I mean, Ole Miss has the offensive line, the defensive line, and the running back, most importantly, after what Ahmad Hardy did last week. Now they get to face the guy who leads the nation in broken tackles. I think it's a good matchup for Ole Miss, but with all of the uncertainty and all of the noise around, and there's nothing more dangerous than a 5-win Egg Bowl team, this game is going to be, I don't know if fun's the right word, but it's going to be must-watch television.
Yeah, and before Ahmad Hardy, it was Nate Frazier who went off against Mississippi State. They've kind of struggled stopping the run, and as you mentioned, their defensive line hasn't played great. The offensive line hasn't played great. But, yeah, I mean, the big thing for Mississippi State this year is they were 2-10 last year, but they've been competitive in almost every game this year. I mean, obviously the Missouri game got away, and then the Georgia game got away as well. But other than that, they've been pretty competitive. Even the A&M game looks lopsided, but it was like a one-score game going to the fourth quarter. And I did a show on Wednesday where I talked about why this is a success, even though a lot of people are saying it's not, that are Mississippi State fans. But I think that's just because they're kind of being prisoners of the moment. You start 4-0 and things like that. But I think this is because they've been competitive in all these games. That's what you wanted to see. Because last year, and I went through it on yesterday's show, they were blown out in several games. And so that's what makes this game even more interesting, is because it was a good game last year when Mississippi State wasn't very good. And now this year they're much improved. But I think Ole Miss, maybe not as talented as last year, but they don't have the lulls, I feel like, or the loose focused kind of performances like they did last year.
Last year was a more talented team by far. It was a more talented team. This is a better team.
Yeah.
This team would beat last year's team by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And that's a weird thing to think of because this isn't as talented as a team. But there's no Trey Harris on this team. There's no Jackson Dart on this team. There's no Walter Nolan or Princely Amon-Mielen on this team. There's no Trey Amos on this team. And because of that, it just takes a tick down a little bit. But what they do really well is Trinidad Chambliss basically plays point guard from the quarterback position to where they complete passes to 7, 8, or 9 wide receivers. When a year ago with Jackson Dart, it was mainly one guy. You would have somebody with 7 or 8 catches, and then the next leading receiver would have 3. Well, this one is like 4, 4, 4, 3, 3. It's the old Mike Leach principle, talking to a Mississippi State guy. Get the guys on your offense the ball, and that's the definition of balance. And whenever that happens, the other team doesn't know who they have to take away. And
right.
For that, the offense is going to be a little bit better. And because of that, they're able to overcome the defense taking a step back.
Yeah, I'm glad you talked about that because I think, and so I'm not saying Trinidad's better than Jackson Dart because I think Jackson Dart is a better quarterback, and we see what he's doing in the NFL. But Jackson, very similar to the team, would have those kind of like head-scratching performances where he just didn't have it there. Whereas I don't really see that from Trinidad. That's one thing, to your point, where I think this is a better team. And it's big. The big reason why is because of Trinidad. I don't really see those inconsistent performances. Now, during games, he'll have like a lull here and there. Like against Georgia, he was great through 3 quarters, then kind of had a lull in the 4th quarter. But it was unrealistic to stay at the level he was playing at through 3 quarters. But he doesn't have those games where he just struggles. I've honestly been shocked that I don't see more Heisman buzz from him. And I know probably it's because he didn't start the year. But, I mean, where would they be if he wasn't on the team and playing like this?
Yeah, you look at it. If they beat Mississippi State and finish 11-1, he should win every Heisman Award, every Maxwell, all the awards. Right. But he's not even in the top 10 voting list when they're looking at it right now, even though he's throwing for over 300 every single week, seemingly. It's weird. It really is.
Yeah. Go ahead. Oh, I was just saying, I write for Athlon Sports and I was writing an article about Heisman odds. The story was actually about Fernando Mendoza, but I even scrolled down a while to find Trinidad Chambliss, and you have to hit show more at least one time, and then he's at the bottom of that. I mean, I don't see him in the top 10, like you mentioned on FanDuel, which is, our sponsor, but I don't see him at all on there, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, it's nuts because, like I said, if Ole Miss goes 11-1 in what was supposed to be a rebuilding year, credit has to go to somebody. Somebody allowed that to happen, and him or Kewan Lacey, that appears to be that's where I would put the credit for getting there. And Kewan Lacey, I'm telling you, against Florida, he completely took that game over, and he is turning into, before our eyes, he's basically turning into Derek McFadden.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's had a great season. I remember the first time he really popped for me. And the funny thing is, when you look at his numbers in this game, they don't stand out, but it's the Oklahoma game when he had 27 carries for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, it's 2.9 yards per carry, but that might be the best defense in college football. And they're one of the best run defenses in college football. And he had the big run early in the game. And I just felt like he had them kind of off balance for a lot of the game. And that was the first time I was like, and he had some big performances before that, obviously, Washington State, Kentucky, Georgia State, over 100 yards. But that was the first game I was like, this guy is a little different. And then obviously he had the big game against South Carolina, like the game after that. And then that's kind of where he's taken off since then.
We talked about storylines in this game. What is the 1 or 2 players that Ole Miss fans that may not be familiar with Mississippi State that they need to pay attention to?
Well, I think the biggest one, and we'll have to kind of see if he ends up playing in this game, is Brennan Thompson. Because when he got injured, the wide receiver, he has, I believe, 868 yards receiving this year and 6 touchdowns. But when he got injured, I believe he was either tied for first or he was in first in the SEC in receiving yards. But he obviously has an extra game on some of the other guys. But he got hurt in the first quarter, had a big 54-yard catch against Missouri, got hurt. So we'll see if he ends up playing. If he doesn't, Anthony Evans is kind of the next guy I would mention. And I always have to mention them together because if people have watched Mississippi State this season, and Jeff Lebby's even talked about it, they are a 2 wide receiver offense. They don't have many receivers stepping up outside of those 2. But both of them can go off for big performances. And they're both speed guys. Anthony's a little bigger than Brennan. So those would be the 2 I would mention. I would actually kind of mention them as one because they're 1A and 1B. The other one on defense, obviously a lot of people know about Isaac Smith, but I've been a big Jerron Manning fan all season. He's been the transfer from Old Dominion. He's had a really good year. He actually leads the team in tackles with 76. He has 3 tackles for loss, 4 pass deflections. He's just been really good in that secondary. So I like him a lot. And then the last one I would mention is Fluff Bothwell, the running back. He was off to a really good season and then has kind of died down since he got hurt against Texas A&M. He has 559 yards, 6 touchdowns on 5 yards per carry. He just hasn't looked right since the injury, but last week I felt like he had a little bit more burst than he's had since the injury. So hopefully this extra week off can get him back to normal.
And everybody that's watching this probably is aware of Kewan Lacey and Trinidad Chambliss, so I won't focus on them. I think the player that you need to look out for on the offensive side of the ball is tight end Daquan Wright. He is probably the best player on this entire offense, and he's a matchup problem at like 260 pounds, and he can really run. He is kind of a way to torture linebackers, so to speak. And defensively, it's Will Eccles, the defensive lineman out of Houston, Mississippi. He is quickly becoming a leader in that unit and has a chance, if he takes a step, to really take a step next year. Mm-hmm. So we'll see exactly what that looks like. But those are probably the 2 players you need to watch.
You know, it's funny. The one guy that he just feels like he pops on the screen every time I watch Ole Miss is Perkins. I really like him. I like him a lot. And like I said, every single time I watch him, and his stats aren't like mind blowing. I mean, he is second on the team in tackles. He does have 6.5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks, and also has an interception. He kind of does it all. But it's not like he's having these great numbers. But it just every time I watch him, it just feels like he is always around the football.
Is it going to be Blake Shapen or is it going to be Kamario Taylor? That's probably the question, right?
Yeah, if you're asking me what I want and what Mississippi State fans want, that's going to be Kamario Taylor. What I think is going to happen is Blake Shapen. Just because, and I've said this, I believe it was on Monday's podcast, I just feel like Jeff Lebby has tied himself to Blake Shapen. It almost feels like when Lebby took the job, Will Rogers obviously transfers out. And so Blake Shapen like put his full trust in Lebby. And it feels like Lebby is trying to return the favor kind of thing. Like, you put your trust in me. We had this struggle of a season. You got hurt. This year is your year. We're riding with you. Even though the numbers should tell you probably shouldn't at this point anymore. And you probably should go with Kamario Taylor. Like, I would understand it if Kamario still had his red shirt and it's like, okay, well, we don't want to burn the red shirt, but he doesn't. He's already burned it. So I don't understand kind of just going down with the ship on this one, especially when you're one game away from a bowl game.
Well, in that case, and looking at one game away from hosting a playoff game and the biggest game in college football in the history of the state of Mississippi is what that playoff would be. I think you just need to try and win the game. You do whatever you think puts yourself in the best position to win the football game. For Ole Miss doesn't need to go for a single fourth down in this game. Not one. Not one. They need
always like the group chats when you get upset about them going 4th on 4th.
Yeah, it's just not one. This is a game, especially in that stadium, to where whenever you get stopped on a 4th down, it is an exponential momentum boost for the other team. And this Mississippi State team can score quickly. So if you're not careful, it could be 21-0 in a hurry. Right. So you need to be careful to take away from that. I think Ole Miss needs to actually play slow a little bit. You have the advantage running the football. They had 38 minutes of time of possession against Florida the other night. They have it in their quiver, essentially. So I think they should try and milk the clock and try and get out of there with the win, lower the number of possessions, and keep Mississippi State's defense on the field as long as possible.